Paul Murdoch. My family and I own and operate Horn Creek Farms, which is just about, if you could throw a baseball, you could probably hit it. So we get these folks out here from OSU on our farm quite a bit, and that's really helpful. We grow about 14 acres, and we really haven't changed. We started at 8, and we went to 14. We just stayed there, and that's really our sweet spot. You know, I would say just grow the number of acres that you have friends you could call in when it all goes pear-shaped, and you'll be fine. So how did we get into the hemp industry? Well, I fell off the roof, and I broke my leg. And somebody introduced me to CBD cream, and it was like magic. So we just started with 300 plants and then 8 acres, which I think is really important because it's, you know, farming, if you're just doing it for money, you lose, you get really tired really fast. And we currently focus on smokable flower and formulated products, and we sell them directly, primarily through our e-commerce site. That's really what we're going to stay focused on.
Adam Kurtz, Oregon Fusion. We are going into year number 7, originally from upstate New York. I was a fresh cut flower farmer for 25 years. We used to do 9 farmers markets every week. And New York State was dragging their feet with hemp legislation, and we saw an opportunity out in Oregon and packed up the family and you know, left everybody to come out here. And our farm is outside Boring, Oregon area. We've got about 12,000 feet of greenhouse that we've built up. And then we peaked in 2019 with about 250 acres I oversaw, from Scappoose all the way down to, you know, Grants Pass area with our partner farms and contract farms. Currently, you know, I'll only do 1 or 2 acres in production this year. And we have over 100 products and 3 stores, brick and mortar stores on the East Coast under Fusion CBD brand. And most recently, we've submitted for our New York recreational grow license under New York Hemp Alliance. And so hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll see if we get awarded that. We have a 31,000 square foot greenhouse back east. So it's been an interesting wild ride, and still here to tell the story and share whatever we can.
Jason Evans. I own and operate with a friend of mine, Tweedle Farms. We're in Clatsop County, Oregon. We are moving into our 8th year of production in the hemp industry. I come originally from 4th generation row cropping. Come from a row cropping family in California, about 1,000 acres, primarily lima beans, tomatoes, and some corn. And spent about 20 years in the finance industry in San Francisco, and when I retired from that, I wanted to get back into my farming roots and move out of the Bay Area, and was lucky enough to find a stake of land and somebody that wanted to grow cannabis. So my original intention back in 2014, 2015 was to either go med, transferring into rec, and with the 2014 Farm Bill, with the parsing out of high THC versus low THC cannabis, it was kind of a layup for us to just go straight into hemp, hard and heavy. We originally intended to grow for the extraction market, but at the time, and at the end of 2016, I saw that there weren't any farm-to-table hemp flower providers nationwide. Now with the Farm Bill made it legal to go nationwide, so I saw a hole in the market, and we started growing specifically for the smokable hemp flower market in the 2nd year of the program. And we've developed our product lines out to topicals, edibles, and other inhalables. But like Paul, we stick primarily D2C. We've avoided going into supermarket chains or doing any we have very limited wholesale, and we want to stay connected with our customers, albeit, around the country. So we continue to, we also, like Paul, we only, we've got 100 acres, but we only grow hemp on, in any given year, 8 to 14 of it. This year we're going to plant about 8. We've got about 10,000 square feet of greenhouse space that we use for propagation and cultivation throughout the year. And we've got a couple of indoor gardens, artificial light indoor gardens that go year round. In addition to that, I would say our total production with other participants in the program with us, I think we represent between 50 to 100 acres total. Small farms that I can drive to. That's all I care about is, whether I can put boots on the ground with other small farms. That way we can do what I like to call boutique at scale. Because you can't grow 100 acres of smokable hemp flower and try to get dispensary quality out of it. It just doesn't work. But partnering up with other small farms in the area, when I say the area, I mean the state. I've been up and down the 5. I got 100,000 miles on a 3-year-old truck, so but it is what it takes to keep this industry going. We need to talk to each other and be involved with each other.
So before I move to the second questions, I want to take, if you have any questions, 1 or 2 with the, with your farm operations. Is there any questions from the audience? Do you want to ask any questions about the operations before I move to the second questions?
Anyone grow autoflower?
We will this year.
So all 3 of you this year?
We've grown it for, we've tested autoflowers and continue to grow with mixed success, especially because our primary focus is in the smokable market. We've had mixed results, but like other specialists in ODA and whatnot, with water being an issue. I happen to be up in Clatsop County. I don't have the benefit of the Southern Oregon climate, although I don't have water problems in Clatsop County either this year. So, it's better lucky than smart, I guess. But we will continue to grow autoflowers every year as a part of our cultivation mix.
Yeah, love-hate relationship with autoflowers. Very, very finicky plant. You really have to transplant them within 7 to 14 days of emergence. I really think they're best for a direct seed type propagation because they'll flower when they're 8 inches tall. So it's just very finicky.
That's a great to hear about those. Great. Only one more question. So we want from here.
Okay. So for the autoflowers, the problem is the flower remains very healthy. And if you compare with the regular flowers, they are very compact. That's nuts. So you guys have no problem in moving the issue because when the flower is very healthy, then the market price goes down to buy them.
Yeah,
Anyone can reply this answer?
Yeah, no, that's it. And I think we'll get consensus here. It's kind of a mixed bag. It depends, like a lot of other things, know your inputs first, right? And we like you said, we've all had mixed success with autoflowers, and because the genetics are just coming online, better and better stable genetics every year. So I would not say that autoflowers are puffy and less dense. It just depends on the variety and depends on the breeder. It also depends on your climate and your inputs. Know your inputs, About it, yeah.
So thank you so much. I think it's a great discussion about autoflower, and I think in the future we'll have some good variety that fit well in our environment. So I will move to the second question. I think this time I want to go with Jason about So over the last years or seasons, what did you learn from your farming operations in terms of your farming practice, marketing, infrastructure, or anything, or any other things that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, it's farming. If anybody in this room has farmed anything other than hemp in the past, you learn to make do with what you have. There's having grown up in the industry, I remember seeing a couple of plaques, or not plaques, frames in my father's office. One of which was an old grizzled farmer meeting with his accountant. The accountant saying, you made a small fortune this year, and the farmer shaking his head and saying, yeah, but it took a large one to do it. Economizing is, and really making do with what you have at hand. You can still put out a great product with very minimal inputs. I mean, this plant is an incredible plant, and as long as you know your soil and your water and your input, you can still turn out a very profitable product. All things being equal. We, our practices, because of it's, our farming practices are very different than a lot of other, whether because we deal with farms in Eugene and Bend, and all the way down to Ashland, and I'm the farthest northern Oregonian farmer of hemp that I know of. We're about 40 minutes from the Washington border and about 20 miles from the coast. So we have about 8,000 days of fog a year. It's probably one of the worst places to grow cannabis in the world, but I like a challenge. So, but you don't need to go fancy to do it well. We happen to use a biofilm, a plastic mulch, and that's to retain heat. We don't need to retain water, but we do need to retain heat. It's, that is more expensive than regular plastic, but we don't like to create as plastic waste if we don't have to. Economizing wherever you can, whether it's in your, not having to pay for very expensive bio inputs, when you can use natural soil amendments or do direct, no-till methods. We've learned that over the years as well. Economizing water with drip tape. It takes a lot of trial and error, but this is a small community, and I highly suggest that farmers talk to other farmers. Given that we all have different geographies and different soil densities and soil textures, but every year, and that's, even though I travel a lot, it's not altruistic. I learn something at every single farm I visit and with every farmer I talk to, and it helps us all become better, because if we share information with each other, it raises all boats. So.
I come from 3 decades of plastic culture, drip irrigation, and then 2019 had the ability to do many different types of experiments. So drip irrigation, 1,300 foot rows, 450 gallons a minute, using specialty filters, non-sand filters out on Sauvie Island, for example. The water table there was low, so once the roots hit that, it just took off. To small-scale farming, I think right now with fertilizer prices where they're at, you have to, you can save quite a bit of money by ripping in fertilizer next to the plants. So I went to Georgia and built a custom fertilizer hopper, and we were doing 3 rows at a time, and it just saved so much. Instead of doing 5 tons like chicken manure per acre, we were able to cut that drastically on the overall fertilizer that we use. So I think it's really exploring all these different areas, and every year you have a little bit of an experiment. I mean, that's the nature of farming, but if you're on the same plot of land, you really get to get in tune with it and maximize efficiencies.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I mean, the most fun thing that I find about farming is making stuff up, making new machinery and that sort of thing. So I did not come from farming, so I learn a lot every year. And, you know, the only thing that I would add to what's been said are some specific things. I mean, I think plastic, or even if it's biodegradable, we really struggle with that, with the heat. And I think that adds to, you know, the lithium that we see potential for it. So this year we have a big truckload of straw. We're just going to go with that. You know, the no-till and those sorts of things, and seeing what happens when you disturb the seed bank that's been idle for maybe 10 years, and then you think you're doing great by tilling it, and you just bring all this other stuff to the surface. You know, the things that I learned specifically about hemp are, by default, we had to really keep everything in-house. You know, there were a lot of services that were going to do this, that, or the other thing for us, and never did. Not because they didn't intend to, they fully intended to, but they had never done it before, they couldn't meet their commitments. So by just keeping everything in-house, we simplified our lives. You know, having a dryer on the facility, which is huge. Second thing would be that marketing, which is kind of what I did from the very beginning, was key, because if you don't have the line to your customers, you know, how many times have you heard, well, do you have a buyer for your crop? Well, if you do, that buyer may or may not buy at the end of the year, even if you have a contract. I know of huge contracts that didn't happen. So the best you can do is just have customers, and, you know, a big pocket full of customers. Some of them will buy more, some less. Some will go out of business, but own that piece. You know, that'll just keep cash flow. If you're sitting around waiting for a $100,000 check or order to come in, a whole bunch of $500 orders are just as good or better. And the last thing I would say is the most interesting piece of this to me is direct seeding. I find fascinating. I experiment every year, always have about 100 plants that I'm playing with, doing different things. Direct seeding is really fascinating. Those plants are more resistant to pathogens and disease. They grow stronger. I typically on Father's Day will plant a bunch, and they will catch up and pass the ones that we put in as transplants early on in the year. So I think there's something really important there. And the second thing is looking at the farm like a balanced ecosystem. You know, if you come in and you just scrape and replace, you can really fuck things up fast. And so, you know, just looking at it like a balanced system and not pulling anything out of there, using the natural predators that are there, keeping live beetle banks around the place. So that's what I learned in my little foray.
You know, just to compliment on that, I mean, you can have a 1 acre farm and do a micro rotation where you can, you know, basically leave a quarter acre out, put a cover crop on it, and just keep rotating that quarter acre. So even on a small scale, you can get nutrients back in the ground.
It's excellent discussion. I wanted to have 1 or 2 questions about if you have anything that you want to share your learning also, you know, if you have want to ask from them. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm curious about the direct seeding, like comparison on germ rates and like managing your row and your air pockets based on that. You know, sometimes your cell tray can be sporadic. You know, you start to know some genetics better than others, but what's been the success rate?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a 60% germ rate, and it's really based mostly on proximity to water. You know, so you just got to be real careful about putting them right next to where the emitters are, the drip line. And I just do 2 per hole and go with it. What were the other questions about that?
That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big, there's two problems to direct seeding. Number 1 is the germ rate, and number 2 is the micro weeding you have to do, right? Because as it just comes up, you got to get in there, and so I haven't figured that one out yet. I'll let you know when I do. But it's fun.
Is there anyone want to ask another question?
Wondering where your farm might be located. Oh, yeah, right here. Okay.
Yeah, it's just, we're just up on Old States Road.
The wall.
Yep, it's just, I think it touches the
Just
corner
wondering
of
about
the
the
field.
climate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, now we got it easy.
We have 1 more question from
Yeah.
I thought you asked question. Anyway, we don't have lots of time, so I would like to move to the third questions. Now I would like to again go to the Paul, so because we're kind of rotating on the way. So what are the biggest limitation or challenges in making your operation successful?
Lack of a stable market.
I mean, you know, we can figure most things out about growing, but it's the lack of a stable market. The variance, I've never been in an industry, I mean, I see everybody shaking their heads. If you've been doing this, it's like, you used to have to pivot once or twice a year, now it's like, you know, this week, okay, this is being banned. And my biggest limitation, really, the one that scares me more than drought or market or any of that, is legislation. Because they can just come in and do a moratorium or something like that, and a plug for OIHFA. I can figure out where to put the water and how to dry and do all that. I can't deal with the legislators, so. Yeah.
Limitations. Since we've been focused on the CBD hemp side of things, payment processing, marketing, social media, all these platforms are just taken out from us. And so at one point we were spending like $10,000 a month on marketing. We stopped marketing and sales didn't decrease. So we weren't getting the reach, and it's really the hardest, always being an entrepreneur, well, like the hardest industry I've ever participated in is this right here. So it's, you know, going on year 7, it feels a lot longer than that, and it's just, you know, trying to wake up and keep on pushing. And we're onto something, and I think it's a testament to the people sitting in this room. I mean, you know, we are still here, we're still standing, and we're trying to, you know, push this forward.
You know, just kind of echo what the other two are saying, especially with marketing. You know, we had, since we were, you know, it's easy to be first into the game, right? But to maintain a pace when there is such an explosion of competition, and not just in one state, but all 50 states, it can get overwhelming. We had an Instagram page that had over 12,000 organic followers that was shut down without notice, without warning. And the question was, you know, what limitations do you see? I've been single-handedly the biggest limitation on my company's success over the years, because I've read through the rules in the beginning and I've followed them ever since. And, you know, whether it's whatever the new hot thing is, you know, synthetic cannabinoids or artificially derived cannabinoids, we never participated in that because we're not bootleggers. You know, we don't do intoxicating cannabinoids. We also have tested for, you know, well above and beyond anything ever required by any state government in Oregon. You know, so we were testing for heavy metals and microbials. We've been doing it for 4 years. And we turned away a lot of product that doesn't pass muster. So we hollow ourselves there. We've also pivoted to the total THC rules when they came out. Nobody's doing that, so I'm trying to sell 10% flower in a 15 or 20% environment when, you know, there's zero, you know, there's regulation, but there's zero enforcement to it. These things that I'm mentioning now that have been limitations, they're going to catch up with everybody else. And whether you see, you know, deltas or THCO or HHC or any other synthetics, you know, government entities are going to catch up with this stuff. The testing requirements are going to catch up. So my advice would be to just know the regulations and follow them, especially if you're just getting in now. You know, if you've had the benefit of the 2018 and 2019 harvest, great, but you know, stick to doing what's right.
You guys are all in smokable flower market. What's been your greatest pathway of success through the trimming hurdle?
Do you who wanna answer these questions?
It's a lot of work. I mean, you know, just like so many things, I see a lot of people kind of looking for shortcuts, and the fact is, there is no shortcut. It's an organic product, it's an odd shaped, you can't develop a machine that goes through and harvests it, you know, in one pass. You can't develop a machine that trims it in one pass. So, you know, my thing is, give the consumer what they expect. Be very clear on your website and everything else about what they're gonna get, because they're only pissed if it doesn't look as good as the picture. And so that, you know, we've kind of got a model around that. Yeah, that's, I don't have a silver bullet.
One more. With the straw, how do you make sure that you have a good source for it? Because if it's sprayed with Sonora or something like that, that would be devastating to the crops.
Yeah.
They're gonna decompose.
Yeah, well, I sure hope my daughter did her homework, because but yeah, and the other thing too is there's not very many sources for organic straw.
That's what I'm wondering if you.
And so, you know, I mean, every year there's been one silly thing that kept us from getting certification. And, you know, really those certifications are that people want to trust you. And if your customers know you and if you're transparent, then they'll know, you know, okay, they use organic practices. But the straw will be a real tough one to get enough organically certified straw.
Sonora would kill Bob.
Yeah.
I was just curious what payment processors you guys use.
Square.
Today, everybody Square?
Square has a CBD program. You have to. Square has a CBD program. You have to apply. If they find out you're selling CBD and you're just in a regular program, they'll boot you or they'll just shut you down for 2 or 3 weeks while they do their approvals. But I would have two. I would get 2 different ones.
Yeah.
Arbitrarily, they can take you out.
Yeah, we've been with Square probably pretty solid now for over 3 years,
Okay.
and also our brick and mortar stores, no problem.
Yeah, we were part of Square's beta program, their CBD beta program. Interestingly enough, a couple months ago, we got a notification from Square that they noticed that we were selling CBD products on our website. It was a shakedown, and I had to reapply from square one. No pun intended. There's also at least one good pay overtime model that we use right now called Sezzle. They've been good to work with. They also fired us at the beginning of the year saying that they noticed that we sold CBD products. So I did not, just like with Square, I did not accept being fired by them. I said, no, I don't care what your auditors are saying. And I actually got on with the auditors, and now we actually have 100 basis points lower rate than we had before, just through negotiation. Lastly, we always have backups in this industry. We've been through half a dozen different processors over the years. And even the ones that we were in their data program, they still try to fire you. There's always some legislation going on, or some big shakedown. The last processor that we just onboarded is a company called Flex. They are based in Missouri, salt of the earth people. And as long as you're doing everything right and are not trying to sneak in, and I'm telling you right now, and if you're selling, Square, or was it Shopify, right? Shopify, if you have anything with the letter THC in it, you're done. They just will not market products because they don't understand the difference between the deltas and any of these other artificially derived cannabinoids, whether it's HHC or whatnot. So they're just not dealing with it. And plus it's, selling an intoxicating substance outside of a regulatory framework, but that's neither here nor there for this conversation. But flex payments, but have multiples, go early, go often. Use other people that have these programs, that have good success with them, use them as references, because then you can ride in their wake, per se.
You know, with Square, they will audit your website. They'll scrub it, and so like we had a bunch of blogs to help with SEO, and we had to remove a lot of the blogs, remove the verbiage, so that they would allow us to utilize it. So it makes it very difficult for SEO.
It's great. I think we are kind of sort of the time, so I want to move quickly to the question number 4. I want to go to Jason. That what could or should industry partner like Oregon State University, Oregon Industry Hemp Farm Association, or ODA do to help you to succeed, or in overall Oregon hemp industry?
Well, by and large, whether it's, and any one of the, I mean, God bless Courtney Moran, if she's still But she's tiny, so she may be back there, I can't see her anyway. But, no, whether it's, Sonny or Chris over at ODA, they've been great partners as well. Don't be shy to call these people, to ask questions. There's been a number of times over the years where, I'll go in and ask a question and come to find out that the person that I'm trying to get the answer from, I know the OARs better than they do. And that's okay, because, listen, we're all just people doing jobs, right? And it's our job to know the legislation and the administrative rules as well as they do. And so we've had a really good partnership. My only, if I would say how, what I would like to see, and I may be called a pariah for this, but I, because I was in the program early, I would like to see better regulation and better enforcement of that regulation, especially of safety testing for intoxicating cannabinoids, because we've had a framework through OLCC for intoxicating cannabinoids for a while, and it started with Delta 8 and it's just exploded nationwide, where and I'm not for or against any compound, regardless of what plant or how it's derived. What I am concerned about is that intoxicating compounds get in the hands of children, and those intoxicating compounds are sold without any safety testing. People are going to die because bathtub gin is being made, but now it's called Delta 8. So, whatever you grow, whatever you make and or sell, the best practice is to be as safety conscious as possible, because if we don't all operate that way, one bad apple who's just trying to make money today is going to get the whole program shut down for all of us. And that's why we've seen OLCC creep into our ODA neighborhood over the years. So.
With OSU, I mean, if you can dream it, bring it to them, utilize them as a resource. ODA, they've matured. I'm hoping that in the future we can now go in person. I mean, I used to bring my application in to be able to meet the people so I could pick up the phone if we have questions. They're there to support us. And OIHFA, join if you're not a member. For a minimum, I think $50 or $100 a month, you will get monthly updates, and that's how you will. 25. Oh, even better. Yeah. Then you will get the information before anyone else, so that you can make accurate business decisions. I mean, it is one of the most vital resources of information in the state.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I'll say it again. We can solve the problems in the field. We can deal with a lot of these things, drought, whatever. It's the legislation that ICEs the biggest risk. And OSU has just been phenomenal in terms of helping me come out, look at my cornea worms, figure out what to do about that, lithium, et cetera, et cetera. It's been really, really great. I do agree with the regulation. I mean, I think that our biggest enemy is the folks that are pushing the laws. And if we didn't have the cartel grows and D8, we'd be a lot closer to getting 1% total in Oregon. But it really pissed the legislators off, that they felt like they had a fast one pulled on. We entered the High Times Hemp Cup this year. And in the box that I got for judging was weed, it was marijuana. It was THCA of 14%, and that won. And so that's just not gonna work. And those are folks that are pushing the Delta 9 only. I had actually two containers of it. I don't think High Times know they were selling weed across state lines. But you know, that stuff is that's gonna come back and bite you. And so I would echo that sentiment.
I wanted to go to the last question. I think we are already been 5 minutes. Is that right? Like Sophia is saying that I want to go to Jason again. So last question is, looking forward, how do you see future hemp industry in 5 to 10 years? What are the upcoming challenges and opportunity are on your mind?
Well, first off, I'd like to say that this plant is called cannabis. There are legal definitions between hemp and marijuana and this and that. It's all a cannabis plant, okay? Cannabis has been grown around this country and around the world for thousands of years, okay? I am cautiously optimistic to see the feed and fiber market expand. I was talking with a large stakeholder of a large farm in the Midwest recently, and you know, I think we will see in the next 5 to 10 years grain really take off. I think we will see fiber really take off, and I really hope to see that feed and fiber stay in the Midwest and cannabinoid production stays on the coasts. Now, that said, you know, folks like the Crawford brothers over at Oregon CBD are doing a lot of work on triploids and seedless varieties so that cross-pollination and, you know, seeding of cannabinoid production is kept to a minimum, but I think that's gonna be a bumpy road ahead. But I do also see that if we can, you know, I mean, and plus, just as a side note, hemp seed is one of the greatest sources of bioavailable protein and omega B3s, and can replace a lot of higher input grains and even meat that we're using. Not that I'm against meat, I eat meat every day, but you know, I think having a multi-use crop, another multi-use crop that'll take us not only into the next decade, but into the next century. This is the plant to do it, period. So, you know, as long as we stick to our guns, keep growing this stuff, and do it in a safe and efficacious manner, I think we got a good chance to actually have a viable industry, you know, in the next decade and through the rest of the century.
Short-term opportunities. I think there's a change happening right now. I'm getting more inquiries on large amounts of biomass, just requested from a large extraction outfit. In the middle of the country, they need 2.5 to 3 million pounds of biomass. Last 2 weeks, fielding calls for large hemp cigarette manufacturers looking for quality material. And my sense is that a lot of people have fallen off, so that there is still going to be a demand for manufacturers out there, and they need this product. So I think it's, you know, even if you can get an acre in the ground this year, just put a little bit in, it might be similar to like 2018. The last 2 years have been brutal for all of us. And, you know, what other things, you know, forward thinking in the next 5 to 10 years, we need to figure out how to use the whole plant. Even if we're going for flower, what can we do with the stalks? What can we do with the roots? Use the whole plant, do added value things, and that will help diversify your program, and not just, you know, grow for flower and cannabinoids.
I just think it's, in good humor that you asked 5 to 10 years out. I'm like, what's going to happen in 5 days? Old. Yeah. Well, I mean, I agree with what they said. The other things are, you know, we are an incredibly predictable group. you know, we run to this and then we run to that. And it's just sort of stepping back and saying, okay, everybody's like you said, wow, so I'm getting a lot more inquiries about biomass now too, and I'm thinking, okay, what's the opportunity, you know, here? And that you know, you can't always pursue those, but if you have the resources, I think there's value there. So what I see is that we have a great opportunity for the small players. We've never really had that before so predictably in any industry, because the big players could jump in, but they haven't done it in this one because the USDA and the FDA rules have made Coca-Cola and these other folks nervous about putting material into their, or CBD into their food. That's really unusual. We're working with a company in Thailand that just got, the government just approved it, I think Jay referred to that, and they gave licenses to 4 people, or 4 groups. And they're the biggest players in the country. So what are the chances that a small operation in Thailand can even get a license, let alone, you know, have any sort of presence? So I see great opportunity for small players, and I think that's going to mature into boutique artisan just the same way that, you know, people go to Road Creamery instead of craft cheese. It's because it's done well.
I wish that I could have more time. I think we need more time to kind of, you know, continue this discussion, but time is already there. First of all, can you give a round of applause for this? And thank you so much, Jason, Adam, and Paul, sharing their excellent experience. I think it's a good learning for everyone. And also, I would really appreciate for the, you know, the Oregon Industrial Hemp Farmer Association having that panelist here. Great, thank you.